The massive alien ship moved through space like a dark metal mountain. Admiral Kexthal stood on the bridge, his blue-scaled hands gripping the rail as he watched the small yellow star grow larger on the viewing screen. His red eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Another primitive world to add to the Galactic Hegemony's collection. The bridge crew worked quietly around him. Zephyrians, Mandorians, and Krellex officers moved between control stations, their different alien forms united in purpose. They had done this 847 times before. Find a world. Study it. Take what they wanted. The pattern never changed. Report. Kexthal commanded in the universal language that all Hegemony species learned, Lieutenant Vextar. A thin Mandorian with gray skin looked up from his scanner station. We are approaching the third planet of this system, Admiral. The inhabitants. Call it Earth. They have been sending radio signals into space for about 100 of their years. Radio signals. Kexthal made a clicking sound with his throat that passed for laughter among his people. How wonderfully primitive. What else do our scans show? The lieutenant's large black eyes focused on his screen. The planet has one large moon, 7 billion inhabitants spread across several continents. They use chemical rockets to barely reach their own orbit. Their weapons are mostly metal projectiles and crude nuclear devices. Other officers on the bridge began making their own clicking sounds. The idea of a species still using chemical explosives was amusing to beings who controlled gravity and antimatter. Nuclear weapons, said Commander Zexanol, a heavy Krellax with 4 arms. I remember when we used those. About 3,000. Years ago, before we learned to split atoms with our minds. More clicking filled the bridge. Even the newest recruits knew that nuclear weapons were what children built before they understood real science. Admiral Kexthal walked to the main viewing screen. Earth hung before them like a blue and white marble, small and helpless. Perfect. For mining operations. The Hegemony always needed more workers for the asteroid fields. Any signs of advanced technology? He asked. None, Admiral, replied Vextar. They have flying machines that burn fossil fuels. Ships that float on water, using metal hulls. Their fastest vessels barely reach 1% of light speed, and only in theory. In practice, their best rockets take months to reach their own moon. Months to reach their moon, Kexthal repeated slowly. We crossed 12 star systems, too. Get here in the same time. The bridge crew clicked again. The Admiral raised one scaled hand for silence. Have they noticed us yet? Yes, Admiral. Their primitive instruments detected our approach 3 days ago. They have been sending radio messages in multiple languages. Should I translate them? Please do. I enjoy hearing what primitive species say when they first meet their superiors. The ship's computers had already learned all human languages from intercepted broadcasts. The translation came through the bridge speakers in Kexthal's own voice, speaking the common tongue. Unknown vessels, this is Earth Defense Command. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations. The bridge fell silent for a moment. Then Commander Zexanol began clicking so hard his 4 shoulders shook. Soon the entire crew was joining in. Earth Defense Command, wheezed Vextar between clicks. They think they can defend something. Diplomatic relations, added another officer. As if they have anything to offer us besides manual labor. Admiral. Kexthal smiled, showing his pointed teeth. The humans were even more entertaining than expected. Most primitive species just cowered when the Hegemony arrived. These creatures actually thought they could negotiate. Open a communication channel. He ordered, let us introduce ourselves properly. The main screen shifted to show Kexthal's reflection. Behind him, the bridge of the greatest warship in known space stretched away into shadows. He straightened his ceremonial armor and activated the transmission. Greetings, inhabitants of Earth, he said in slow, clear words. I am Admiral Kexthal of the Galactic Hegemony. We represent 12 species who control this region of space. We have come to your world to collect resources and evaluate your population. He paused to let that sink in. Your technology is primitive but interesting. In a historical sense, your weapons could not harm our smallest scout ship. Your fastest vessels would take lifetimes to reach the nearest star. You are, in all important ways, helpless before us. On the other side of the bridge, Vexstar was monitoring human communications. Admiral, they are sending messages all across their planet. Military units are being activated. Their leaders are holding emergency meetings. Of course they are, Kexthel replied without looking away from the screen. Continue the transmission. He turned back to address Earth directly. However, the Galactic Hegemony is not without mercy. We will offer you a choice. Surrender your planetary resources peacefully, and we will allow your species to survive. You will be relocated to suitable work facilities throughout our territory. Your people will serve as maintenance workers and general laborers. It is honest work, and you will be fed and housed according to hegemony standards for primitive species. Commander Zexanol stepped up beside him. Should I mention the alternative? Admiral? Yes, I think they should understand their options fully. Kexthol's smile grew wider. The alternative is simple. If you choose to resist, we will take what we need by force. Your cities will be reduced to slag. Your population will be drastically reduced to a more manageable number. The survivors will still serve as workers, but under much less comfortable conditions. He gestured to the viewports where Earth hung in space. Look at your world from our perspective. We see resources, metal in your crust, water in your oceans, workers among your population, nothing more. You cannot fight us any more than bacteria can fight a disinfectant. The transmission ended. The bridge crew waited in amused silence for the human response. It came faster than expected. This is President Martinez of the United Earth Government, a human voice said through the speakers. Your ultimatum is rejected. Earth will not surrender to anyone. We demand that you leave our solar system immediately. As the silence on the bridge stretched longer this time, then it shattered as every alien present burst into clicking laughter. They demand, gasped Vexstar. They actually demand that we leave. President Martinez, said Commander Zexanol. What a delightfully optimistic creature. Admiral Kexthel was not laughing. He was staring at the screen with genuine surprise. In 847 worlds, this had never happened. Primitive species either surrendered immediately or begged for mercy. They did not make demands? Are they insane? He asked Vexstar. Possibly, Admiral. Or perhaps they truly do not understand the situation. Their radio broadcast suggests they have never encountered alien life before. They may not comprehend the technological gap between us. Then we shall educate them. Kexthel activated the transmission again. President Martinez, I believe you have misunderstood something fundamental. Let me explain in terms your primitive mind can grasp. He gestured, and the main screen split to show technical readouts. This is one of our scout ships. It is 2 kilometers long and carries enough firepower to crack a moon. Its shields can absorb your most powerful nuclear weapons without strain. It moves faster than light and can cross your solar system in minutes. The display shifted to show the full hegemony fleet. We have brought 200 such vessels to your system. Our flagship, which you are now addressing, is 20 kilometers long and carries weapons that can sterilize entire continents. He paused to let the humans process this information. Your most advanced fighter aircraft use chemical combustion for propulsion. Your most powerful warships float on water and fire metal shells. Your nuclear weapons, which you consider devastating, are toys compared to what every hegemony soldier carries as a sidearm. The display showed human military assets detected by their scans. Jets, ships, tanks, and missile silos looked pathetic next to the alien technology. Do you understand now, President Martinez? This is not a war. This is not even a conflict. This is simply a choice between easy collection and difficult collection. The human response came back even faster this time. Admiral Kexthal, this is General Patricia Williams of Earth Defense Command. Your threats are acknowledged and understood. Our answer remains the same. Leave our system now or face the consequences. This time the bridge crew did not laugh. They stared at each other in confusion. Face the consequences? Vexstar whispered. What consequences could they possibly threaten us with? Perhaps, suggested Commander Zexenol, they have some sort of suicide weapon. A device that would destroy their own planet rather than let us have it. Admiral Kexthal considered this. Some species had tried that approach before. It never worked. Well, because the Hegemony could usually disable such weapons before they fired. Scan for any large explosive devices, he ordered. Fusion reactors, fission piles, anything that could pose a threat to the planet itself. The scans took several minutes. The results appeared on the tactical display. I detect several hundred nuclear weapons, Admiral, reported Vexstar, but they are small and scattered. Even if they detonated all of them simultaneously, they would only destroy a fraction of their major cities. Nothing that would deny us the planetary resources. Then what are they thinking? No one on the bridge had an answer. In the Admiral's experience, primitive species fell into predictable categories. Some surrendered immediately. Some begged for mercy. Some threatened suicide. Some tried to hide. These humans were doing something new. They were acting confident. Admiral, Vexstar said carefully, should we consider the possibility that they do have some hidden capability? Some technology we have not detected? Kexthal's red eyes narrowed. With chemical rockets and metal bullets? What could they possibly hide that our scanners would miss? I do not know, Admiral, but their behavior is unusual. Their behavior is stupid, Kexthal snapped. They are insects threatening a mountain. Perhaps they are simply too primitive to understand their situation. He activated the transmission one final time. Very well, humans, you have made your choice. We gave you the opportunity to surrender with dignity. Since you prefer to face destruction, we will accommodate you. The Admiral turned to his weapons officer. Begin bombardment of their military installations. Show them what Hegemony firepower means. After they have watched their defenses crumble, they may become more reasonable. Yes, Admiral. Which targets should we prioritize? Start with their space installations. Destroy anything that leaves their atmosphere. Then target their airfields and naval bases. Leave their cities intact. For now, we want them to surrender, not to create a wasteland. As the weapon systems powered up, Admiral Kexthal felt a familiar satisfaction. This was how it always ended. The primitives would resist for a few hours or days, then realize the hopelessness of their situation and beg for mercy. But somewhere, in the back of his mind, a small voice wondered why these humans seemed so confident. What did they know that he did not? He pushed the thought away. After 847 conquered worlds, he knew that primitive species often behaved irrationally when faced with superior force. These humans would learn their place soon enough. The first energy beams lanced down toward Earth, beginning what Admiral Kexthal assumed would be a very short and one-sided conflict. The scanning probes launched from the Hegemony fleet like silver wasps, spreading across Earth's atmosphere in perfect formation. Each probe was the size of a small car and carried sensors that could analyze everything from atomic structure to energy patterns. Admiral Kexthal watched their deployment with practiced satisfaction. Begin deep scans of all major population centers, he commanded. I want a complete inventory of their military capabilities. Every weapon, every vehicle, every installation. Lieutenant Vexstar worked quickly at his station, coordinating the probe network. Data streams began flowing across his screen in steady rivers of information. The Mandorian's large black eyes tracked the readings with professional interest. Initial scans confirm our earlier assessments, Admiral, he reported. No energy shields detected anywhere on the planet, no particle beam weapons, no gravitational manipulation technology. Their most advanced aircraft appear to use turbine engines burning fossil fuels. Commander Zexenol leaned over another console, his forearms moving across different control surfaces simultaneously. I am detecting large concentrations of metal vehicles, he said. Tracks instead of hover systems. Chemical explosive rounds instead of plasma charges. It is like looking at a museum, The other bridge officers clicked their amusement. Several younger crew members had never seen such primitive technology outside of historical archives. "What about their nuclear weapons?" asked Kexthal. "Those merit some attention, even if they are crude." "Scanning now, Admiral." Vexstar's fingers danced across his controls. "I count approximately 15,000 nuclear warheads across the planet. Most are mounted on chemical rockets with very limited range. The largest weapons show yields of perhaps 50 megatons. 50 megatons, repeated the Admiral thoughtfully. Our personal shield generators can absorb twice that energy without strain. The interesting thing, continued Vexstar, is how they have distributed these weapons. Instead of concentrating them for maximum effect, they have scattered them across multiple nations. It appears they built these weapons to fight each other, not external threats. This brought fresh clicking from the bridge crew. The idea of a species that spent more effort fighting itself than preparing for outside dangers was endlessly amusing to Hegemony officers. What about their space capabilities? Kexthal asked. Minimal, Admiral. They have a few small stations in orbit around their planet. The largest appears to be a research facility with perhaps 6 crew members. They use chemical rockets to reach these stations, and the journey takes them several days. The Admiral walked to the main viewing screen, studying the blue world that hung before them. Earth looked so peaceful from this distance. The swirling white clouds and vast blue oceans gave no hint of the primitive civilization struggling on its surface. Continue the detailed scans, he ordered. I want to know about every military base, every research facility, every factory that might produce weapons. When we begin the demonstration, I want to target their most impressive capabilities first. As the probes worked, their sensors penetrated deep into human civilization. They mapped underground bunkers, analyzed communication networks, and cataloged weapons stockpiles. The picture that emerged was exactly what the Admiral expected. Sir, called out Ensign Kralvax, a young Zephyrian manning the communications station, we are intercepting massive amounts of radio and data traffic from the planet. Their global communication networks are extremely active. What are they saying? Military units worldwide are being placed on highest alert. Their leaders are conducting emergency meetings via electronic conferences. I am detecting activation of missile defense systems and deployment of fighter aircraft. Show me. The main screen shifted to display a tactical overview of Earth. Red dots appeared wherever the sensors detected military activity within minutes. The entire planet was covered in red lights. Look at that, murmured Commander Zexanal. They are actually mobilizing their entire military. Against us, added Vexstar with obvious amusement. Primitive missiles and chemical aircraft against a Hegemony battle fleet. Admiral Kexthal studied the display with growing satisfaction. This was exactly the response he had hoped for. The humans were gathering their forces for a spectacular defeat that would make their surrender even more dramatic. Are they launching any attacks? He asked. Negative, Admiral. Several fighter patrols have approached our outer sensor range, but they have not fired. I believe they are conducting reconnaissance. Let them look, Kexthal decided. Perhaps seeing our ships up close will convince them to be more reasonable. Meanwhile, far below on Earth's surface, something very different was happening. Deep beneath the Colorado Rocky Mountains, Admiral Sarah Chun received a priority communication that changed everything. The message was short and coded in a cipher that only 12 people on Earth could read. But Sarah Chun was one of those 12, and she understood every word. Protocol Titan has been authorized, she said aloud to the empty command center around her. Authorization level Omega, all safeguards removed. Sarah Chun was 63 years old and had spent her entire career in the deepest levels of military intelligence. She had inherited her current position from Admiral Morrison, who had inherited it from Admiral Zhang, who had inherited it from the man who started it all back in 1952. The Titan project was older than most countries. It had survived the Cold War, the War on Terror, and 3 different world economic collapses. It had been passed down through 6 generations of military leadership, each adding to the work of those who came before. And now, finally, it was time. Sarah walked to a console that had not been activated in 15 years. She placed her hand on the palm scanner and looked directly into the retinal scanner. When both devices confirmed her identity, she spoke clearly into the microphone. "This is Admiral Chun, Titan Control. Begin emergence sequence. Authorization Omega 77 Alpha." 400 feet above her, seismic monitoring stations around the world began detecting unusual readings. The Hegemony sensors noticed them, too, but dismissed them as minor earthquakes caused by tectonic stress. Back on the alien flagship, Lieutenant Vexstar was completing his detailed analysis of human military capabilities. "Final report ready, Admiral," he announced. "Proceed." Total human military aircraft, approximately 50,000. Most effective fighters appear to be models they call F-22 and F-35. These use chemical turbine engines and fire metal projectiles at subsonic speeds. Naval forces? 11 carrier groups with supporting vessels. Their largest ships displace approximately 100,000 tons and carry aircraft similar to those I mentioned. All vessels are limited to water surface operations. Ground forces? Several million soldiers equipped with small arms, armored vehicles, and artillery. Again, all weapons are chemical or kinetic. No energy weapons detected anywhere. Admiral Kexthal nodded approvingly. The numbers sounded impressive until compared to Hegemony standards. 50,000 aircraft meant nothing when each one could be destroyed by a single patrol ship. 11 carrier groups were meaningless when his flagship alone outmassed their entire navy. "What about their industrial capacity?" asked Commander Zexenol. "Substantial for a primitive civilization," Vexstar replied. "They can produce large quantities of basic weapons and vehicles. However, their manufacturing methods are crude. Metal forging, chemical processing, electronic assembly. Nothing that approaches molecular construction or matter compilation. Time to build replacement forces if we destroy their current military. Assuming we allow them to rebuild, several years minimum for aircraft, perhaps a decade for major naval vessels. Which we will not allow," Kexthal said firmly. "After the demonstration, there will be no more human military. Only human workers." The bridge crew clicked agreement. The pattern was always the same. Destroy the primitive military, occupy the major cities, transport the population to work camps, convert the planet to resource extraction. Simple and efficient. "Admiral," called Ensign Krelvax from the communications station. "The humans are broadcasting another message." "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was different this time. Older, calmer, with an authority that made even the alien officers pay attention. "This is General Elizabeth Morrison, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I am speaking for all military forces of Earth. We have reviewed your ultimatum and our position remains unchanged. Earth will not surrender. We will defend our world with everything we have." "Everything they have," chuckled Commander Zexenol. "Chemical bullets and nuclear firecrackers." But General Morrison was not finished. "However, we recognize the technological disparity between our forces. Therefore, we are implementing defensive measures that go beyond conventional military response. Be advised that Earth Defense Command has capabilities that you have not yet observed." The bridge fell quiet. Admiral Kexthal frowned at the main screen. "What is she talking about?" he asked Vexstar. "Unknown, Admiral. Our scans are comprehensive. We have detected every major installation, every weapon system, every research facility. There are no hidden capabilities that could threaten us. Unless," suggested Commander Zexenol slowly, "they have developed something underground, beyond the reach of our surface scans." "Scan deeper," ordered Kexthal immediately. "I want geological surveys of every continent. Look for large underground structures, hidden facilities, anything that might house advanced weapons." The probes redirected their sensors downward, penetrating through soil and rock with sophisticated scanning beams. The results came back quickly. I am detecting extensive underground construction, reported Vexstar with surprise. Mining operations, transportation tunnels, storage facilities. Much more than we initially observed. Military installations? Difficult to determine, Admiral. Many of the underground structures are shielded or too deep for detailed analysis. But the construction appears to be quite extensive. Admiral Kexthal stared at the new data streaming across his screens. Underground facilities were not unusual. Most primitive species built bunkers and shelters to protect themselves from their own weapons. But something about the scale of human underground construction was bothering him. How extensive. Sir, I am detecting underground construction on every continent. Tunnels that extend for hundreds of kilometers. Caverns large enough to house major cities. Power systems that seem far more sophisticated than their surface technology would suggest. Power systems? Yes, Admiral. I am reading energy signatures that I cannot fully identify. They appear to be fusion-based, but the design is unfamiliar. For the first time since arriving at Earth, Admiral Kexthal felt a small tickle of uncertainty. Primitive species did not usually have unfamiliar fusion technology. They had fusion or they did not. There was no middle ground. Could they have salvaged technology from previous alien visitors? He asked. Possible, but unlikely, replied Vexstar. Our records show no hegemony contact with this system, and no other known spacefaring species has reported contact with Earth. Then where would they get advanced fusion technology? No one on the bridge had an answer. The Admiral stared at the tactical display, watching red dots multiply across Earth as more human military units moved into position. Everything still looked primitive and hopeless from a military standpoint. But something was nagging at him. Recommendations? He asked his officers. We could send probes for closer inspection of the underground facilities, suggested Commander Zex_Null. Or we could proceed with the planned demonstration, added Vexstar. If they have hidden weapons, attacking their surface military will likely force them to reveal what they are hiding. Admiral Kexthal considered both options. His fleet was more than capable of handling anything a primitive species might have developed. Even if the humans had somehow built fusion weapons or basic energy shields, the technological gap was still enormous. We proceed as planned, he decided. Begin targeting their most visible military assets. Space stations first, then airfields, then naval bases. If they have hidden capabilities, destroying their conventional forces will force them to show their hand. Yes, Admiral. As the Hegemony fleet moved into attack formation, the seismic readings from Earth grew stronger. Deep beneath the surface, something vast was stirring. But the alien sensors registered it only as minor geological activity, unworthy of attention. Admiral Kexthal had made his decision. The demonstration would begin soon, and the humans would learn the price of defying the galactic hegemony. He had no idea that 400 feet below the Colorado Mountains, Admiral Sarah Chun was watching her own displays as the Titan-Battleship Mark IX began its century-long awakening process. The real war was about to begin. The first energy beams from the Hegemony fleet cut through Earth's atmosphere like blue lightning. They struck the International Space Station with surgical precision, turning the metal structure into expanding clouds of superheated gas in less than 3 seconds. Admiral Kexthal watched the destruction on his main screen with cold satisfaction. The space station had been humanity's most advanced orbital facility, and it died without even attempting to defend itself. Target eliminated, reported Lieutenant Vexstar. No return fire detected. Continue with the demonstration. Destroy their remaining orbital assets. More energy beams lanced downward. Communication satellites exploded in brilliant flashes. A small research station near the moon vanished in a burst of white light. Within 10 minutes, everything humanity had built in space was gone. On Earth's surface, billions of people watched the destruction through telescopes and cameras. The message was clear and terrible. The aliens could destroy anything they wanted whenever they wanted, and Earth's military could do nothing to stop them. Phase 2, ordered Admiral Kexthal. Begin attacks on their Air Force installations. The alien fleet moved into low orbit, positioning themselves above major military bases across the planet. Their weapons had unlimited range, but the Admiral wanted the humans to see their attackers clearly. At Ramstein Air Base in Germany, Colonel Hans Mueller was briefing his pilots when the sky began to glow. He looked up through the hangar windows and saw a shape that blocked out the sun. The alien ship was so large it created its own weather, drawing clouds around its massive hull. "All aircraft, emergency launch," Mueller shouted into his radio. "Get everything airborne now." F-35 Lightning fighters began racing down runways across the base, their pilots knowing they were flying toward certain death but unwilling to die. On the ground, the first fighter had just lifted off when the energy beam struck. The entire airbase vanished in a column of blue fire that reached from the ground to the clouds. When the light faded, there was only a perfectly circular crater. Where thousands of people and hundreds of aircraft had been moments before, similar scenes played out across the globe. Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada, RAF Lakenheath in England, Misawa Air Base in Japan. Each one deleted from existence with casual efficiency. Some pilots managed to get airborne before their bases were destroyed. They climbed toward the alien ships with desperate courage, firing missiles that exploded harmlessly against invisible shields. The alien fighters that responded were sleek silver crescents that moved without any visible propulsion. Captain Maria Santos flew her F-22 Raptor in a steep climb toward the nearest alien ship. Her radar showed nothing but empty space, even though she could see the massive vessel with her own eyes. "Lock on anything," she muttered, switching between different targeting systems. "Come on, give me something to shoot at." The alien fighter that intercepted her appeared without warning, materializing beside her aircraft like a metal ghost. Maria had barely enough time to see its smooth hull before a graviton beam tore her fighter apart. The same scene repeated hundreds of times across the planet. Human pilots fought with skill and bravery, but their weapons could not penetrate alien shields and their aircraft could not match alien speed. At Norfolk Naval Base, Admiral James Richardson watched his fleet mobilize with grim determination. Aircraft carriers turned toward the open ocean while destroyers and cruisers formed defensive formations. Every ship that could reach deep water was racing to get there. "Sir," called his communications officer, "we're receiving targeting data from ground stations. They have a lock on multiple alien vessels." "Launch everything," Richardson ordered. "Tomahawks, harpoons, every missile we have." Hundreds of cruise missiles rose from ships and submarines, streaking toward the alien fleet on trails of white fire. The missiles were humanity's most advanced weapons, capable of destroying any target on Earth. They exploded against the alien shields like fireworks against a mountain. The response was immediate and devastating. Energy beams reached down from orbit and touched each ship for exactly 1 second. The mighty aircraft carriers cracked open like eggs. Destroyers simply vanished. In less than 5 minutes, the entire fleet was gone. Admiral Richardson stood on the bridge of his flagship as the energy beam descended toward him. His last thought was that his men had died bravely, even if they had died USELESSLY. Around the world, military commanders watched their forces disappear with terrifying speed. Tank divisions were vaporized from orbit. Missile silos were turned to glass. Entire armies ceased to exist between one heartbeat and the next. At Cheyenne Mountain, General Patricia Williams coordinated the defense from deep inside NORAD, her. Screens showed red X marks spreading across the map as base after base went dark. "Ma'am," called her intelligence officer, "we've lost contact with European Command, Pacific Command, and Southern Command. Estimate 90% of our conventional forces are destroyed or cut off. Nuclear response authorization?" asked Williams. "Negative. The President is still hoping for a negotiated solution." Williams stared at the tactical display in disbelief. A negotiated solution while the world burned around them. But she was a soldier, and soldiers followed orders. Continued defensive operations with remaining assets, she commanded. On the alien flagship, Admiral Kexthal was growing bored with the demonstration. The human military was even weaker than his worst estimates. Their fighters died so quickly. that his gunners were complaining about the lack of challenge. "Status report," he called. "Orbital assets 100% destroyed," reported Vextar. "Air Force installations 95% destroyed. Naval forces 80% destroyed. Ground-based missile systems 70% destroyed. Any effective resistance? None, Admiral. A few lucky hits on our scout ships, but their weapons cannot penetrate even basic shielding." "How long until complete military suppression?" "At current rate, approximately 6 hours for major installations. Perhaps 12 hours to eliminate all organized resistance." Admiral Kexthal nodded with satisfaction, right on schedule. Soon he could broadcast new surrender terms, and this time the humans would accept them gratefully, but deep beneath the Colorado mountains, Admiral Sarah Chun was watching very different displays. Her screen showed the Titan-Battleship Mark 9 slowly rising through layers of rock and steel that had hidden it for 73 years. "Emergence at 60%, reported her chief engineer. "All primary systems nominal. Weapons charging at 70% capacity." "How long until full emergence?" asked Chun. 17 minutes, Admiral. "But we can begin combat operations at 90% emergence." "Understood. Continue the sequence." Around the world, seismic monitoring stations were detecting massive earthquakes centered on seemingly random locations. The readings made no geological sense. Earthquake activity was spreading in perfect patterns across different continents, as if something huge was moving beneath the ground. Lieutenant Vextar noticed the seismic activity on his sensors and marked it for later investigation. Right now, the suppression of human military forces took priority. Whatever was causing the earthquakes could wait until after the humans surrendered. "Admiral," called the communications officer, "we're receiving another transmission from the human leadership. Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers belonged to the Secretary General of the United Nations, speaking from an emergency bunker beneath New York City. "Admiral Kexthal, this is Secretary General Maria Santos. On behalf of all humanity, I request an immediate ceasefire. We are prepared to discuss surrender terms." The bridge crew clicked their approval. Finally, the humans were seeing reason. "Continue," said Kexthal. "However, before we begin negotiations, we must warn you that Earth Defense Command has additional capabilities that have not yet been deployed. We strongly recommend that you halt your attacks and move your fleet to a safe distance." The clicking stopped abruptly. Kexthal frowned at the main screen. "Additional capabilities? What could they possibly mean?" "Unknown, Admiral," replied Vextar. "Our scans show no remaining significant military assets. A few scattered submarines, some mobile missile launchers, but nothing that could threaten." "U.S.? Perhaps they are referring to their nuclear weapons," suggested Commander Zexenol. "Possibly, or it could be a bluff designed to buy time." Admiral Kexthal considered the situation. In his experience, desperate species often made empty threats when facing extinction. But something about the human behavior continued to bother him. They were acting like they had options when they clearly had none. "How are the deep scans of their underground facilities progressing?" he asked. "Still incomplete, Admiral. The geological activity is interfering with our sensors. I am detecting massive energy buildups at multiple locations, but I cannot determine their source or purpose." "Energy buildups?" "Yes, sir. The readings are unusual, far beyond what their technology should be capable of producing." For the first time since arriving at Earth, Admiral Kexthal felt a genuine stab of concern. Energy buildups meant power sources. Power sources meant weapons. And weapons from a species this confident might be dangerous. "Send probe teams to investigate the largest energy signatures," he ordered. "I want detailed scans of whatever they are hiding down there." "Yes, Admiral." As the probes descended toward Earth's surface, the seismic activity intensified. Across the planet, the ground began to shake in patterns that suggested something immense was rising from the depths. In Nevada, a section of desert the size of Manhattan suddenly cracked open like an egg. Steam and dust erupted from the growing fissure as something dark and massive began to emerge. In Siberia, an entire mountain split in half, revealing metal structures that gleamed despite being buried for decades. In the Atlantic Ocean, a new island began rising from the depths, shedding water from surfaces that had never seen sunlight. The Hegemony sensors finally began to register what was happening. The energy signatures were not just large, they were enormous, bigger than anything a primitive civilization should be capable of building. "Admiral," Vexstar called urgently, "I am detecting artificial structures emerging from underground locations. Worldwide, the energy readings they are comparable to our own capital ships. That's impossible. Sir, I am also detecting advanced materials in the emerging structures. Metamaterials that should not exist at this technological level." Admiral Kexthal stared at his displays as impossible readings flooded in from across the planet. Whatever the humans had been hiding, it was big enough to register on scanners designed to track battleships. "Get me visual confirmation," he ordered. The main screen shifted to show the emerging structure in Nevada. Through the dust and steam, something vast and dark was rising from the earth. It looked like a mountain made of metal, but mountains did not have weapon turrets along their sides. "What is that?" whispered Commander ZEX single quotes NOL. Before anyone could answer, the communications system activated itself. The voice that came through the speakers was calm, professional, and absolutely terrifying in its confidence. "This is Admiral Sarachun of the Terran Defense Initiative. All Hegemony vessels are ordered to withdraw from Earth space immediately. You have 30 seconds to begin retrograde movement or you will be considered hostile targets." The bridge fell silent. Admiral Kexthal stared at the screen where impossible structures continued to emerge from locations all across the planet. "Terran Defense Initiative," he said slowly. "What is the Terran Defense Initiative?" The answer came not in words but in action. Deep beneath the Colorado Mountains, the Titan-Battleship Mark 9 finally broke through the last layer of concealing rock. And Earth. The mountain exploded outward in all directions as something larger than a city tore itself free from the planet's crust. The earthquake it created registered 8.2 on the Richter scale and was felt on every continent. Admiral Kexthal watched in stunned silence as his sensors tried to process what they were seeing. The object emerging from Earth was not a ship. It was not a building. It was something that defied every assumption he had made about human technology. It was a weapon designed to kill gods, and it was pointing directly at his fleet. The Titan Battleship Mark 9 rose from the Earth like a metal mountain coming to life. 15 miles long and 3 miles wide, its hull gleamed with materials that had never existed in nature. Steam and debris fell away from its surfaces as it climbed toward the sky on pillars of controlled gravity. Admiral Kexthal stared at his main screen in complete shock. His sensors were screaming warnings that made no sense. The object rising from Earth registered as having the mass of a small moon, but it was moving with the grace of a fighter craft. "Scan it," he ordered, his voice barely steady. "I want to know what we are looking at." Lieutenant Vexstar worked frantically at his controls, but the readings that came back were impossible to believe. "Admiral, the hull appears to be constructed from metamaterials I cannot identify. The density readings suggest matter that has been compressed at the molecular level. The power source is, sir, I am detecting a controlled singularity." A controlled singularity?" Commander Zexenol stepped closer to the scanner station. "That is impossible. Singularity containment requires technology that even we have not perfected. The readings are confirmed, Commander. There is a black hole inside that vessel, contained by gravitational fields that I cannot analyze." Admiral Kexthal felt his world tilting off its axis. Controlled black holes were theoretical weapons that existed only in the most advanced research facilities. No primitive species should even know they were possible. "What else?" he demanded. "Sir, the vessel is unfolding. Sections of the hull are separating and repositioning themselves. It appears to be revealing weapon systems." On the main screen, the Titan continued its transformation. What had looked like a simple metal mountain was revealing itself to be something far more complex. Armor plates slid apart with mechanical precision, exposing weapon turrets that dwarfed anything in the Hegemony arsenal. "How many weapons?" asked Kexthal. "I count over 3,000 individual weapon systems, Admiral, and they are still emerging." The bridge fell silent except for the steady beeping of sensors that were struggling to process data beyond their design limits. 3,000 weapons on a single vessel was more firepower than most Hegemony fleets carried. What types of weapons? Vexstar's hands shook as he read the scanner results. "I am detecting dark matter manipulation systems, temporal displacement generators, quantum torpedo launchers, and... Sir, I think some of these weapons work by altering the fundamental forces of physics. That is impossible." "Yes, Admiral. But the readings are clear." As they watched, more structures began emerging from other locations around the planet. In the North Atlantic, what looked like an island was rising from the ocean depths. It shed water in massive waterfalls as it climbed toward the surface, revealing itself to be another vessel of impossible size. In the Siberian wilderness, a mountain split open like a flower, exposing a ship that was shaped like a giant crescent moon. Energy patterns danced along its hull in colors that had no names. In the Sahara Desert, sand cascaded away from a pyramidal structure that was larger than any city on Earth. Its surfaces were covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at. "Directly, Admiral," called the communications officer. "We are receiving signals from 11 other locations worldwide. More vessels are emerging." 11? Kexthal's voice was barely a whisper. "How many ships do they have?" "Unknown, Admiral. Our sensors cannot get accurate counts. The energy interference is too severe." Admiral Sarah Chun sat in the command center of the Titan-Battleship Mark 9. Watching her displays as systems that had been dormant for decades came online one by one. Around her, dozens of technicians worked at control stations that looked like they belonged in a science fiction movie. "Weapons status?" she asked. "Dark matter lances at full charge," reported her weapons officer. "Quantum torpedoes loaded and ready. Temporal displacement fields are stable. Gravitational singularity cannons are online. Communications? All Titan-class vessels report ready for combat. Titan 2 in the Atlantic is fully emerged. Titan 7 in Siberia is at 90% emergence. All vessels are receiving targeting data." Admiral Chun nodded with satisfaction. 73. Years of preparation were about to be put to the test. She opened a channel to the alien fleet. "Admiral Kexthal, this is Admiral Sarah Chun of the Terran Defense Initiative. You were warned to withdraw from Earth space. Since you have chosen to remain, you are now classified as hostile targets." On the alien flagship, Kexthal was trying to process what he was seeing. His entire understanding of reality was crumbling. Primitive species did not build ships that could manipulate dark matter. They did not control black holes. They did not possess weapons that could alter the laws of physics. "How?" he asked the empty air. "How is this possible?" Admiral Chun's voice came through the speakers again as if she had heard his question. "You assumed we were primitive because you saw only what we chose to show you. That was your mistake, Admiral. We have been preparing for this day since 1952, when your kind first crashed on our world." "Crashed?" Kexthal spun toward his communications. "Officer, we have never had ships crash on Earth. Check the records." "Sir, checking now." "I find no record of any Hegemony contact with this system prior to our current mission." Admiral Chun continued speaking. "Not Hegemony ships, Admiral. Others came before you. They died when they arrived, but their technology did not. We studied it, we learned from it, we improved it." The truth hit Admiral Kexthal like a physical blow. The humans had found crashed alien ships and reverse-engineered the technology. But that should have been impossible. Primitive species could not understand advanced technology even when they had examples to study. "But your surface technology," he protested. "Chemical rockets, metal weapons, primitive electronics?" "Window dressing," Admiral Chun replied calmly. We needed to appear helpless while we completed our preparations. Every space program, every research facility, every deep mining operation was cover for the Titan project. On his sensors, Admiral, Kexthal watched more impossible ships emerging from locations all across the planet. Each one was larger than his flagship. Each one carried enough weapons to destroy fleets. "How many?" he whispered. 12 Titan-class battleships, Admiral, each one built to kill beings exactly like you. The Titan-Battleship Mark 9 had completed its emergence from Earth. It hung in the atmosphere like a dark metal city, its weapons turning to track the alien fleet with mechanical precision. Along its hull, geometric patterns began to glow with energy that made space itself ripple. "Admiral," Vextar called urgently, "they are targeting us. All vessels are being painted by multiple targeting systems." "Evasive maneuvers," ordered Kexthal. "All ships scatter. Prepare for combat." But even as he gave the order, he knew it was too late. His fleet had been caught completely off guard by enemies they had never suspected existed. The Hegemony vessels began to move, but they were capital ships designed for overwhelming primitive opponents, not for fighting peer-level technology. The first shot came from Titan 7 in Siberia. Its dark matter lance reached across space in an invisible beam that struck a Hegemony dreadnought at the speed of light. The massive alien ship simply ceased to exist, its atoms scattered across several dimensions simultaneously. "Impossible," breathed Commander Zexanol. "Our shields should have stopped that." "Dark matter ignores conventional shielding," Admiral Chun's voice explained helpfully. "It interacts only with gravitational fields. Unless you have gravitational shield generators, you are completely defenseless against it." The second shot came from the Atlantic. Titan II launched a spread of quantum torpedoes that phased through normal matter like ghosts. They passed completely through the hulls of 3 Hegemony cruisers before detonating inside their engine cores. The explosions were unlike anything Admiral Kexthal had ever seen. Instead of fire and debris, the ships simply folded in on themselves and vanished, as if reality had decided they never existed. "Return fire!" he screamed. "All weapons, Maximum." "Power!" the Hegemony fleet responded with everything they had. Energy beams that could crack planets lanced toward the Titan ships. Antimatter missiles that could destroy asteroids streaked through space. Graviton bombs that could crush matter into neutronium exploded against the human vessels. Nothing happened. The energy beams struck the Titan hulls and were absorbed without trace. The antimatter missiles detonated against shields that bent space itself. The graviton bombs created ripples in spacetime that the human ships rode like waves. "How are they doing that?" demanded Kexthal. "Sir, their hulls appear to be constructed from materials that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously," reported Vextar. "Our weapons cannot affect matter that is not entirely in our reality." "And their shields?" "They are not shields, Admiral. They are manipulating the fundamental forces of physics. Our weapons exist in normal space, theirs do not." More Hegemony ships died as the human vessels opened fire with weapons that defied understanding. Temporal displacement beams aged entire cruisers into metal dust in seconds. Gravitational singularity cannons created miniature black holes that consumed everything within their event horizons. A weapon that Admiral Chun called a reality anchor struck a Hegemony battleship and somehow convinced the universe that the ship had never been built in the first place. It did not explode or disintegrate. It simply stopped existing, leaving only confused memories of what had been there moments before. "Admiral," called his tactical officer, "we have lost 60% of our fleet. Remaining ships are requesting permission to retreat." Admiral Kexthal stared at his displays in numb shock. In less than 10 minutes, the mightiest fleet in the galaxy had been reduced to scattered survivors fleeing for their lives. "How?" he asked again. "How is this possible?" Admiral Chun answered as if she had been waiting for the question. "You conquered 847 worlds, Admiral. But you made a critical error in your assumptions. You believed that a species was either primitive or advanced, weak or strong. You never considered that a species might be something else entirely. What are you? Whispered Kexthel. We are patient, Admiral Chun replied. We are builders, we are survivors. And most importantly, Admiral, we are not prey. We never were prey. We were predators pretending to be prey, waiting for the right moment to show our teeth. The Titan-Battleship Mark IX began to move, its massive bulk accelerating toward the alien fleet with impossible grace. Along its hull, new weapons were emerging, weapons that made the ones already deployed look like toys. You came to our world expecting to find victims, Admiral Chun continued. Instead, you found something that has been hunting beings like you for longer than your civilization has existed. Admiral Kexthal watched his flagship's shields fail under fire from weapons that should not exist. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically to coordinate a retreat that was looking more like a rout with every passing second. This is impossible, he said one final time. No, Admiral, replied Admiral Chun as her flagship's main weapon began to charge with energy. That warped space itself. This is just the beginning. The main weapon of the Titan-Battleship Mark IX began to charge with energy that made reality itself tremble. Admiral Kexthal watched his instruments go insane as space-time warped around the massive human vessel. The weapon was drawing power directly from the controlled black hole at the ship's core, channeling forces that could remake entire star systems. All ships retreat immediately, he broadcast to his remaining fleet. Maximum emergency speed, abandon formation and scatter. But it was already too late. The Titan's primary weapon system, which Admiral Chun had designated the Reality Shaper, reached full charge and fired. The beam that emerged was not light or energy or matter. It was pure mathematics given form, an equation written in physics that rewrote the laws of existence within its path. 3 hegemony dreadnoughts caught in the beam simply ceased to be valid solutions to the universal equation of reality. They did not explode. They did not disintegrate. They became impossible, and the universe deleted them to maintain logical consistency. Admiral Kexthal felt his sanity straining as he watched ships the size of cities vanish without trace. His species had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had technology that could move stars and weapons that could crack planets. But the humans were wielding forces that made their greatest achievements look like children's toys. Admiral, called Lieutenant Vexstar, his voice high with panic. I am detecting 11 more Reality Shaper weapons charging across the planet. They are preparing to fire simultaneously. At what targets? At us, sir. All remaining hegemony vessels are being targeted. Admiral Kexthal looked at his tactical display and saw the truth written in glowing symbols. His fleet was trapped in a perfect kill zone, surrounded by weapons that could erase them from existence itself. Open a channel, he ordered. Full surrender frequency. Admiral Sarah Chun received the surrender request while standing in the command center of humanity's greatest weapon. Around her, the bridge crew worked with calm efficiency, managing systems that controlled forces beyond imagination. Admiral Kexthal is requesting immediate ceasefire and negotiation terms, reported her communications officer. Put him through, Chun ordered. The alien admiral's image appeared on the main screen. His blue scales had turned pale gray with shock, and his red eyes held the hollow look of someone whose entire worldview had shattered. Admiral Chun, he said slowly. My fleet surrenders unconditionally. Please halt your attack. Why should we? Chun asked calmly. You came to our world to destroy us. You killed millions of our people in your demonstration attacks. You treated us like insects to be stepped on. We made an error, a grave error. We did not understand what we were facing. No, Admiral, you understood perfectly. You came to our world because you believed we were weak and helpless. You attacked us because you thought we could not fight back? The only thing you did not understand was that we were allowing you to believe those things. Chun gestured to her tactical display, which showed the positions of all 12 Titan-class battleships. Every action your fleet took was predicted and planned for. We knew you would destroy our orbital installations first, so we built them to be expendable. We knew you would target our air forces and navies, so we made them visible while hiding. Our real defenses. Admiral Kexthal stared at the display in growing horror. You sacrificed your own military? Your own people? We sacrificed our visible military to protect our real military, Chun corrected. Every pilot who died today was a volunteer. Every sailor who went down with their ship knew they were buying time for humanity's survival. They died as heroes, knowing their sacrifice would save our species. The alien admiral's image flickered as his ship's systems struggled under the gravitational effects of the nearby Titan vessels. But how? He asked. How did you build weapons that surpass our technology? We have ruled the galaxy for 10 millennia. We have absorbed the knowledge of 1,000 species. Admiral Chun smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. That was your second mistake, Admiral. You assumed that absorbing knowledge was the same as understanding it. You conquered species and took their technology, but you never truly innovated. You never pushed beyond what others had discovered. She walked closer to the main screen, her image filling Admiral Kexthal's view. Humans do something that no other species in the galaxy has ever done. We take existing technology and make it better. Not just different, not just modified, but fundamentally improved in ways the original creators never imagined. Impossible. Technology has limits. Physics has laws. Physics has laws, Chan agreed, but those laws have loopholes. Humans are very good at finding loopholes. As if to demonstrate her point, Titan 7 in Siberia activated a weapon system that Admiral Kexthal had never seen before. It reached out with invisible forces and grabbed one of his retreating cruisers, holding it motionless in space despite its engines running at full power. What is that? He whispered. Localized time dilation field, Chun explained casually. We slowed down time around your ship. From your crew's perspective, they are still moving at full speed. From our perspective, they are nearly motionless. The trapped ship fired its weapons at the Titan vessel, but the energy beams moved so slowly they were visible to the naked eye as crawling lines of light. Time manipulation is impossible, Kexthal protested weakly. No, Admiral, time manipulation is difficult. There is a difference. Chen returned to her command chair and settled into it with the air of someone who had been preparing for this moment her entire life. Let me tell you the real story of humanity, Admiral. The story you should have learned before you decided to invade our world. The main screen shifted to show historical images from Earth, primitive humans with stone tools, early civilizations building monuments, the first glimpses of technology. For most of our history, we were exactly what you thought. We were primitive, weak, divided. We fought endless wars with each other using increasingly deadly weapons. The images showed human conflicts through the ages. Bronze Age battles, medieval sieges, world wars with chemical weapons and nuclear bombs. But in 1952, something changed. A ship crashed in our desert. Not one of yours, Admiral. Something older. Something that had been running from beings like you for a very long time. New images appeared. Wreckage in the Nevada desert. Scientists studying alien technology. Engineers reverse engineering impossible devices. The ship was damaged beyond repair, but its computer systems were intact. We learned things, Admiral. Terrible things about what exists in the galaxy beyond our world. The images showed the construction of underground facilities, the development of new technologies, the birth of the Titan project. We learned about the Galactic Hegemony. We learned about 847 conquered worlds. We learned that something was coming for Earth, and when it arrived, it would not show mercy. Admiral Kexthal listened in growing horror as the true scope of human preparation became clear. So we made a choice, Chun continued. We would survive. We would be ready. And when the conquerors came, we would show them what humans do to things that threaten our home. The screen showed the construction of the first Titan-class vessel, a process that took decades and involved technologies that should not have been possible for a primitive species. We spent 73 years preparing for you, Admiral. 73 years building weapons designed specifically to kill beings like you. Every advance in our surface technology was a cover story. Every space mission was reconnaissance. Every deep mining operation was preparation. But the crashed ship, Kexthel protested. How could you understand technology so far beyond your development? Shun's smile returned, colder than before. Because humans have one ability that no other species possesses, Admiral. We are insatiably curious about things that can kill us. When we find something dangerous, we do not run away. We study it, we learn from it, we make it better. The tactical display showed all 12 Titan-class vessels moving into formation around Earth. Their combined firepower was greater than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The aliens who crashed on our world have been running from the Hegemony for 3,000 years. Their technology was already designed to fight you. We just made it better. This is madness, Kexthel whispered. No species develops this quickly. It is not possible. You keep using that word, Chun observed. Impossible. But you are looking at the proof that you are wrong. 12 impossible ships. Weapons that should not exist. A species that was supposed to be primitive but is clearly your technological superior. She leaned forward in her chair. Would you like to know why humans advanced so quickly, Admiral? Why we could build in 70 years what took other species millennia? Kexthel nodded numbly. Because we knew we were going to die if we failed. Every human scientist, every engineer, every worker on the Titan project knew that the survival of our entire species depended on their success. When humans face extinction, Admiral, we do not surrender. We evolve. The reality shaper weapons began charging again, their energy fields visible as distortions in space itself. Now, Admiral Chun said with finality, let me tell you what happens next. The tactical display zoomed out to show the entire solar system. Your surviving ships will be allowed to return to Hegemony space. You will carry a message to your leaders. Earth is no longer a primitive world to be conquered. Earth is now a threat to be feared. A threat? Admiral, did you really think we built only 12 ships? The display shifted to show deep space. Beyond Earth's solar system. More signatures appeared on the screen, dozens of them, all moving toward Hegemony territory. The Titan-class vessels you see around Earth are our planetary defense fleet, Chun explained. Our offensive fleet left Earth 3 months ago when our sensors detected your approach. Admiral Kexthel stared at the display in absolute terror. The signatures moving through space were larger than anything the Hegemony had ever built. Impossible, he breathed. There is that word again, Chun said with amusement. Admiral, by the time you return to Hegemony space, 48 Titan-class assault vessels will already be in position around your 12 most important worlds. The display showed Hegemony star systems with human ships already in position near inhabited planets. We have been preparing for this war for 73 years, Admiral. Did you really think we would limit ourselves to defense? Chun stood and walked to the main viewport, looking out at the stars beyond Earth. The Galactic Hegemony has ruled for 10,000 years, but your reign is over. Humanity is no longer prey hiding on a single world. We are predators and we are expanding into the galaxy. She turned back to face the alien admiral. You have 1 hour to gather your surviving ships and leave our solar system. If any Hegemony vessel is detected in Earth space after that time, it will be destroyed. And then? Then we begin the liberation of the 847 worlds you have conquered. Starting with your capital. Admiral Kexthel's image flickered and faded as his ship prepared for emergency departure. His last words were, barely audible, "What have we done?" Admiral Sarah Chun watched the alien fleet flee toward deep space, their ships damaged and their spirits broken. Around Earth, the 12 Titan-class defense vessels maintained their positions, ready to destroy any threat that dared approach. Humanity's home. In the command center of the Titan-Battleship Mark IX, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. They had trained for this moment their entire lives, and now that it had come, they felt only satisfaction. "Admiral," called the communications officer, "we are receiving signals from the Titan assault fleet. They report ready to begin operations against Hegemony targets." "Acknowledged," Chun replied. Signal all vessels, Operation Apex Predator is now active. She looked out at the stars one final time, thinking of all the species that had suffered under hegemony rule. Soon, they would be free. The galaxy had a new apex predator, and its name was humanity. In the depths of space, Admiral Kexthal's surviving ships limped toward home, carrying news that would shatter the foundations of galactic civilization. The hegemony had finally met a species that was not prey. They had met their replacement.